When billionaire Grayson Lawrence woke up from a 2-year coma, he discovered a stranger had been raising the son he never knew existed. What started as suspicion and anger would become something no one saw coming.
Who are you? My son has been living with a stranger for 2 years and you're talking about reports?
I didn't just take him. I gave him a home when no one else would.
But as days turned into weeks, the man who had everything began to see the woman who had given his son the one thing money couldn't buy: unconditional love. And suddenly, protecting his family meant something he never expected.
Marry me. Become Leo's stepmother, legally. I know that when I look at you, I see the possibility of something I never expected to find.
You want to get married for Leo?
What he did next shocked everyone, including himself. But when his son's biological mother returned with a devastating ultimatum, would their newfound love survive the ultimate test? Will a billionaire's proposal born from desperation become the greatest love story of his life? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Monet Campbell adjusted her watch as she walked through the sliding doors of Atlanta Memorial Hospital. Another night shift was about to begin. At 28, she already had the tired eyes of someone who carried too many responsibilities. But that never stopped her from smiling at everyone she passed. "Morning, Monet," called security guard Tom from his desk. "Or I guess it's evening for you." "Evening, Tom," Monet replied, her voice warm despite her exhaustion. "How's that grandbaby of yours? Growing like a weed, 6 months old and already trying to crawl?" Monet's smile widened. Children always brought out the best in her. It's why she became a pediatric nurse in the first place. In the staff locker room, she changed into her blue scrubs and pulled her hair back into a neat bun. The weight of her day clung to her shoulders. Another argument with her teenage sister Tasha about curfew, another pile of meals on the kitchen table, another reminder that at 28, her life wasn't anything like she'd imagined. "You look dead on your feet," said Nurse Jackson, an older woman who'd taken Monet under her wing when she first started. "Just the usual," Monet said. "Tasha thinks midnight is a reasonable time for a 16-year-old to come home on a school night." "That girl doesn't know how lucky she is to have you," Jackson said, shaking her head. "Most brothers and sisters would have let the system take her after your mama passed." Monet shrugged. "She's family. You don't abandon family." Those words would come back to her later that night. The pediatric ward was quiet when she arrived for her shift. Most of the children were asleep, their rooms dark except for the soft glow of night lights and monitoring equipment. "Anything I should know about?" Monet asked the day nurse she was relieving. "Room 304 has a NIW admission," the nurse said, handing over a chart. 5-year-old boy. He hasn't spoken a word since he got here." Monet frowned as she flipped through the admission notes. Leo Lawrence. No medical issues noted. Brought in by his mother. But she left. She looked up in disbelief. "What do you mean she left?" "Exactly that. Dropped him off and disappeared. Said she couldn't handle it anymore, that the boy's father never knew he existed, and now with the accident." "What accident? You haven't seen the news? Grayson Lawrence, the tech billionaire. His private plane crashed 3 days ago. He's in a coma in the ICU." Monet's heart sank. And this is his son? A son he never knew about? And the mother just abandoned him here? The day nurse nodded grimly. "Social services is involved, but it's a mess. They're trying to contact family members, but meanwhile, there's a scared little boy all alone," Monet finished, already moving toward room 304. She paused outside the door, took a deep breath, and entered with a gentle knock. The room was dim, illuminated only by the glow of a cartoon playing on the television with the sound muted. In the bed sat a small boy with sandy brown hair and big eyes that looked too solemn for his young face. "Hi there," Monet said softly. "My name is Monet. I'm going to be your nurse tonight." The boy, Leo, didn't respond. He just stared at her, clutching a worn blue stuffed elephant. "That's a nice elephant you've got there," Monet tried again. "Does he have a name?" Nothing. Monet didn't push. Instead, she checked his vital signs, speaking softly the whole time, explaining everything she was doing. "I'm just going to check your temperature now. This goes in your ear, just for a second. There we go. Perfect. As she worked, she noticed the boy's eyes following her every move. Not with fear, but with a kind of desperate attention, like he was trying to memorize her face in case she disappeared too. "You know what?" Monet said as she finished her checks. "I think I'm going to sit with you for a bit. Would that be okay?" Leo didn't answer, but he didn't look away either. Monet settled into the chair beside his bed. "When I was little, about your age, I had trouble sleeping in new places too. My mama used to tell me stories. Would you like to hear one?" She didn't wait for an answer that wouldn't come. Instead, she launched into a simple story about a brave little elephant who got separated from his family but found his way home by following the stars. Halfway through the story, Leo's tight grip on his stuffed elephant loosened just a little. By the end, his eyes had grown heavy. "You get some sleep now," Monet whispered. "I'll be right outside if you need anything, I promise her." As the days passed, Leo remained silent, but Monet noticed small changes. He would watch for her arrival. His eyes would light up when she entered his room. Once, she even caught the hint of a smile when she brought him chocolate pudding instead of vanilla. Social services came and went. They couldn't locate any of Grayson Lawrence's family willing to take temporary custody of a child they hadn't known existed. Leo's mother had vanished completely, leaving behind only a signed form giving the hospital permission to treat him. "What's going to happen to him?" Monet asked the social worker, a harried woman named Mrs. Patel. "Foster care, most likely," Mrs. Patel said, "unless Mr. Lawrence wakes up soon." The thought of Leo, silent, vulnerable Leo, being passed to strangers, made Monet's stomach twist. "What if," she began, hardly believing what she was about to suggest. "What if I took him? Temporarily, I mean. Until his father recovers or other arrangements can be made." Mrs. Patel looked surprised. "You're a nurse, not a foster parent. I can become certified. I've raised my sister since she was 10. I have a spare bedroom. Leo knows me. He trusts me as much as he trusts anyone right now." "It's not that simple." "Nothing about this situation is simple," Monet interrupted. "But that little boy needs stability. He needs someone who cares." Mrs. Patel studied Monet's determined face. "I'll see what I can do, but don't get your hopes up. The system has rules. But sometimes rules bent for the right reasons." 2 weeks later, after mountains of paperwork, background checks, and home visits, Monet found herself leading Leo into her modest 2-bedroom apartment. "This is where I live with my sister Tasha," she explained, though Leo hadn't asked. He never asked anything. He never spoke at all. "She's 16, but don't worry, she's nice once you get to know her." Leo clutched his blue elephant, which Monet now knew was named Blue, simply enough, and took in his new surroundings with wide, careful eyes. "And this," Monet said, opening the door to a small bedroom with freshly painted light blue walls, "is your room for now until your dad gets better." She'd spent her one day off that week painting the room and assembling a second-hand bed. Tasha had helped, albeit with the typical teenage complaints, until she'd seen Leo's picture. Something about his solemn little face had softened her usual teenage attitude. "It's not much," Monet admitted, "but I thought the blue might make Blue feel at home." For the first time since they'd met, Leo reached for her hand. His small fingers wrapped around hers, and Monet felt her heart crack open a little wider. Life settled into a new routine. Monet arranged her shifts so she could all be home when Leo wasn't in the day program she'd enrolled him in. Tasha, surprisingly, stepped up to help, walking Leo home when Monet had to work early. "He's like a little shadow," Tasha said one evening as they watched Leo carefully color at the kitchen table, always watching, never talking. "The child psychologist says he's experienced trauma," Monet explained. "First, whatever happened with his mother, then being abandoned, now his father in a coma. He'll talk when he's ready." But weeks passed and Leo remained silent. He followed Monet around the apartment. He slept only if she read him a story first. He ate only if she sat beside him. He was like a little satellite, orbiting her as if she were the only safe planet in his universe. Every day, Monet checked on Grayson Lawrence's condition. Still comatose, still stable, still missing the fact that he had a son. A quiet, watchful, wounded son who needed him, Then, one night, as Monet was tucking Leo into bed, he looked up at her with those serious eyes and whispered, "Story, please." Monet froze, afraid that if she reacted too strongly, he might retreat back into silence. "Of course, sweetie," she said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening. "Which one would you like tonight?" "Elephant Story," Leo whispered. "The one about Blue." Monet's heart soared as she settled beside him and began the tale that had become their nightly ritual. Once upon a time, there was a brave little elephant named Blue. That night marked a turning point. Leo's words came slowly at first, a whispered request here, a quiet answer there. But like a stream that had been dammed too long, once they started flowing, they gradually gained strength. By the time 3 months had passed, Leo's voice had become a regular sound in Monet's apartment. He still spoke softly, still Elle chose his words carefully, but he spoke. "Do you think my dad will ever wake up?" he asked one evening, as Monet braided Tasha's hair in the living room. The question, so direct, so painful, caught her off guard. "I hope so, sweetie," she answered honestly. "The doctors are doing everything they can." "But what if he doesn't?" Leo persisted. "What happens to me?" Tasha turned to look at him. "You stay with us, dummy? Right, Monet?" Monet shot her sister a warning look for the dummy comment, but nodded. "I promised I'd take care of you, didn't I? And I don't break my promises." Leo seemed to consider this, his small face serious. "Can I call you Mommy?" he asked finally, "since my real Mommy didn't want me." The room went silent. Tasha's eyes widened. Monet felt her heart constrict. "Oh, Leo," she said gently. "Your mother. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that make it hard for them to take care of the people they love. That doesn't mean she didn't want you." "She left me," Leo said simply. "You didn't." Monet moved to kneel in front of him. "Leo, your daddy is still your daddy, even if he's sleeping right now. And when, not if, but when, he wakes up, he's going to want to meet you and love you. But until then," Leo pressed, "can you be my mommy?" How could she say no to those eyes, to that plea? "If that's what you want to call me, then yes. Until your daddy wakes up, I'll be your mommy." Leo smiled, a real, full smile that lit up his whole face, and threw his arms around her neck. Behind them, Tasha rolled her eyes, but Monet caught the smile her sister tried to hide. Life went on. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, months into a year. Leo started kindergarten. He made friends. He laughed, a sound that always made Monet's heart skip a beat with joy, but he still had nightmares, still needed his BLUE, still asked sometimes if his daddy would ever wake up. And Monet still checked every day on Grayson Lawrence's condition, until the day everything changed. Monet was at work when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Atlanta Memorial Hospital. Not unusual since she worked there, but she wasn't scheduled that day. "Hello?" she answered, balancing the phone while helping Leo with his homework at the kitchen table. "Miss Campbell, this is Dr. Patel from Neurology." Monet's heart skipped a beat. Dr. Patel was Grayson Lawrence's doctor. "Yes?" "I thought you should know. Mr. Lawrence is showing signs of emerging from his coma. There's been significant brain activity, and he's beginning to respond to stimuli." The pencil Monet had been holding clattered to the table. Leo looked up, curious. "When?" she managed to ask. "It started early this morning. These things are unpredictable, but given his progression so far, I wouldn't be surprised if he regains consciousness within the next 24 to 48 hours. "I see," Monet said, her voice faint even to her own ears. "I know you've been caring for his son," Dr. Patel continued. "Social services has been notified as well, but I thought you deserved a direct call. Thank you. I appreciate that." After hanging up, Monet stared at the phone in her hand, emotions swirling. She should be happy. This was what they'd been hoping for. What Leo needed. His father awake and whole. So why did her chest feel so tight? "Who was that?" Leo asked, looking up from his math worksheet. Monet took a deep breath. "That was a doctor from the hospital, the one taking care of your daddy." Leo's eyes widened. "Is he okay?" "Yes, sweetie," Monet said, her voice catching. "In fact, he's getting better. The doctor thinks he might wake up very soon. Oh. Leo looked down at his paper, then back up at Monet, his eyes suddenly anxious. But I don't know him. I know, sweetie, but he's your daddy. Will I have to go away? Leave you and Tasha? The question stabbed at Monet's heart. I don't know what will happen, she answered honestly. But I promise, no matter what, I will always be here for you. Always. Leo nodded, but his eyes remained troubled. That night, after Leo was asleep, Monet sat at her kitchen table, a cup of tea grow-wing cold in front of her. Tasha found her there, staring at nothing. So Leo's dad is waking up, Tasha said, sliding into the chair opposite. That's good, right? Of course it's good, Monet replied automatically. Then why do you look like someone died? Monet sighed. Because everything's about to change, Tasha. Leo's father is Grayson Lawrence, a billionaire, a man who probably has a whole different life planned than raising a 5-year-old he never knew existed. So what? Leo loves you. You're the only mom he knows. It's not that simple. It never is with you, Tasha muttered. The next morning, Monet called in sick to work for the first time in years. She helped Leo dress with extra care, trying to explain what was happening. We're going to the hospital to see if your daddy is awake, she told him gently. If he is, he might be confused. He might need time to understand everything. Leo clutched Deep Blue tightly. Will he like me? Oh, sweetie. Monet pulled him into a hug. He's going to love you. How could he not? But as they drove to the hospital, Monet couldn't quiet the voice in her head asking, what if Grayson Lawrence didn't want his son? What if he rejected Leo? Or worse, what if he took Leo away, cutting Monet out of his life completely? The hospital parking lot was unusually crowded. As they approached the main entrance, Monet realized why. News vans lined the drive, reporters with microphones and cameras standing ready. Tech billionaire awakens after 2-year coma, read a headline on a reporter's tablet. 2 years. Had it really been that long? Leo had been 3 when he came into her life. Now he was 5, almost 6. 2 years of birthdays and nightmares and first words and scraped knees and bedtime stories. 2 years of love. Monet tightened her grip on Leo's hand and steered him toward a side entrance she knew from working at the hospital. The hallways were buzzing with activity. Nurses rushing, security guards stationed at intervals, important-looking people in expensive suits hurrying past. Monet recognized the chaos of a VIP patient. They took the elevator to the neurology floor. As the doors opened, Monet nearly collided with Mrs. Patel, the social worker who had first placed Leo with her. Ms. Campbell, Mrs. Patel said, looking flustered. I was just about to call you. Mr. Lawrence regained consciousness about an hour ago. Monet felt Leo's hand tighten around hers. How is he? Confused as expected, but alert, responding well. Mrs. Patel glanced down at Leo. Hello, Leo. Do you remember me? Leo nodded silently, pressing closer to Monet's side. Mr. Lawrence has been informed that he has a son, Mrs. Patel continued. He was surprised, to say the least, but he's asked to see him. Monet knelt down to Leo's level. Your daddy is awake and he wants to meet you. Are you ready? Leo looked terrified. Will you come with me? Of course. Mrs. Patel frowned slightly. Actually, Ms. Campbell, the family has requested... I'm going with him, Monet said firmly. He's 5 years old and he's about to meet a stranger who happens to be his father. I'm going with him. Something in her tone must have convinced Mrs. Patel, who nodded reluctantly. This way, then. They followed her down a hallway where even more security guards stood watch. Outside a private room, a cluster of men in suits were speaking in low, urgent tones. They fell silent as Monet and Leo approached. Is this the child? Asked one of the men, eyeing Leo with a calculating gaze that made Monet want to shield him. This is Leo Lawrence, Mrs. Patel confirmed, and this is Monet Campbell, his temporary guardian. The man barely glanced at Monet. Mr. Lawrence is waiting. He's eager to meet his son. Monet felt a flicker of resentment at being so easily dismissed, but she pushed it aside. This wasn't about her. It was about Leo. Ready, sweetie? She asked gently. Leo looked up at her, his eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Then he nodded, clutching Blue the elephant in one hand and Monet's hand in the other. The door to the private room opened. Inside, propped up on a hospital bed surrounded by machines and flowers, was a man Monet had only ever seen in news photos. Grayson Lawrence. Thinner than in his pictures, with a scruff of beard and hair longer than the close-cut style he'd worn before the accident, but his eyes, a striking blue that matched Leo's, were alert and focused as they turned toward the door. Those eyes widened as they landed on Leo. The room seemed to hold its breath. "Leo?" Grayson's voice was hoarse from disuse. "Are you my son?" Leo didn't move. He stared at the man in the bed, then looked up at Monet, confusion and fear written all over his face. "It's okay," Monet whispered. "Go say hello to your daddy." But Leo shook his head and pressed against her leg, hiding partially behind her. "That's not my daddy," he whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear in the silent room. He looked up at Monet with absolute trust and certainty. "She's my mommy." Grayson Lawrence's face registered shock. His gaze moved from Leo to Monet, his brow furrowing in confusion and something else, something harder, more suspicious. "Who?" he asked, his voice gaining strength with each word. "Are you?" And in that moment, Monet knew that everything was about to change. "Who are you?" Grayson Lawrence repeated, his voice stronger now, eyes locked on Monet. The room was so quiet you could hear the steady beep of the heart monitor. Everyone, the lawyers, the social worker, the nurses, seemed frozen, waiting. Monet straightened her shoulders. "My name is Monet Campbell. I'm a pediatric nurse at this hospital." She placed a protective hand on Leo's head as he pressed against her leg. "I've been Leo's guardian for the past 2 years." "Guardian?" Grayson's face hardened. "What does that mean exactly?" One of the suits stepped forward. "Mr. Lawrence, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No," Grayson cut him off. "I want to know who's been raising my son while I was lying here unconscious." Monet met his gaze directly. "Leo was brought to the pediatric ward by his mother the day after your accident. She left him there and never returned. No one knew you had a son. There was no family to take him. So you just took him." Suspicion colored Grayson's tone. Monet felt a flash of anger. "I didn't just take him. I worked with social services. I went through all the proper channels. I became certified as a foster parent. I gave him a home when no one else would." Mrs. Patel stepped in. "Mr. Lawrence, Ms. Campbell has provided excellent care for Leo. All the reports—" "Reports," Grayson interrupted again. "My son has been living with a stranger for 2 years, and you're talking about reports." Leo began to tremble against Monet's leg. She knelt down to his level. "Hey, sweetie, why don't you and Mrs. Patel go find the vending machine? Get a snack while the grown-ups talk." "I don't want to leave you," Leo whispered, his eyes wide with fear. "I'll be right here," Monet promised. "Just a few minutes, okay?" After some gentle coaxing, Mrs. Patel led Leo from the room, though he kept looking back at Monet until the door closed behind him. As soon as they were gone, one of the lawyers spoke up. "Mr. Lawrence, we should investigate this situation thoroughly. There could be financial motivations." "Financial motivations?" Monet couldn't help herself. "I'm a nurse who works night shifts to make ends meet. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my teenage sister. I didn't even know who Leo's father was until after I'd already taken him in." Grayson studied her face. "You expect me to believe you took in a child, a complete stranger, with no thought of gain?" "I took in a scared little boy who had no one," Monet replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "A little boy who didn't speak for months because he was so traumatized. A little boy who still has nightmares, who still needs his stuffed elephant to sleep, who likes chocolate pudding but hates vanilla, who's afraid of thunderstorms but loves the rain." Something flickered in Grayson's eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or the first hint of belief. "I didn't try to replace you," Monet continued more softly. "I just refused to let him be forgotten." For a long moment, Grayson said nothing. Then he turned to the suits. "I want to speak with Ms. Campbell alone." "Mr. Lawrence, I don't think that's advisable." "It wasn't a request," Grayson said, his tone making it clear he was used to being obeyed. The room emptied quickly after that, leaving Monet standing awkwardly. Sized the foot of Grayson's bed. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair beside him. Monet sat, her back straight, hands folded in her lap. "Tell me about my son," Grayson said, his voice softer now. "Everything." So she did. She told him about Leo's first silent weeks, about his favorite books, about his first words to her. She told him about teaching Leo to tie his shoes, about his first day of kindergarten, about the time he got a fever that scared her left to death. She pulled out her phone and showed him pictures, Leo blowing out birthday candles, Leo in his Halloween costume, Leo building a snowman last winter. "He's smart," she said, "curious, kind. He makes friends easily now, but it took time for him to trust people." Grayson's expression had softened as she spoke, the suspicion gradually replaced by something more complex, wonder, sadness, and a hint of gratitude. "You love him," he said finally. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Monet answered simply. "I do." Grayson leaned back against his pillows, suddenly looking exhausted. "I didn't know I had a son. His mother—" "Kara," Monet supplied. "That's all we know. She didn't leave much information." "Kara Moore," Grayson nodded. "A model. We dated briefly about 6 years ago." He ran a hand over his face. "She never told me she was pregnant. Never contacted me at all." "I'm sorry," Monet said, and meant it. "You missed so much." "Thanks to you, he didn't grow up in the system," Grayson said quietly. "I owe you for that." "You don't owe me anything," Monet replied. "I didn't do it for you." Her ghost of a smile touched Grayson's lips. "No, I suppose you didn't." The door opened and Leo peeked in, Mrs. Patel right behind him. He immediately ran to Monet, chocolate smeared around his mouth. "Mommy, they had pudding cups," he announced, climbing into her lap with what hesitation. Monet noticed Grayson flinch at the word mommy, but he covered it quickly. "Leo," Monet said gently, "did you say hello to your daddy?" Leo looked at Grayson, then buried his face against Monet's shoulder. "It's okay," Grayson said, his voice strained. "It's a lot to take in for all of us." Over the next few days, a routine developed. Monet would bring Leo to visit Grayson for an hour each afternoon. At first, Leo wouldn't leave Monet's SID, but gradually he began to warm up to Grayson. It helped that Grayson was patient, never pushing. He let Leo set the pace, content with small victories. A smile, a question, a shared interest in toy cars that one of Grayson's assistants had brought. "He's trying," Monet told Tasha one evening after Leo had gone to bed. "I have to give him credit for that." "So what happens now?" Tasha asked. "When does Leo go live with his rich daddy in some mansion?" Monet sighed. "It's not that simple. Grayson is still recovering, and Leo needs time to adjust." But the question haunted her. What would happen when Grayson was discharged? He had rights, legal rights that would trump any temporary guardianship arrangement. The answer came sooner than expected. A week after Grayson woke up, Monet arrived at the hospital with Leo to find moving boxes in his room. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep the alarm from a voice. "I'm being discharged tomorrow," Grayson explained. He looked better, stronger, color back in his face. "My doctors say I can continue my recovery at home, with nursing care." "Oh," Monet said, feeling a hollow open up in her chest. That's good news." Grayson looked at Leo, who was examining a new toy car, then back at Monet. "I've had my estate prepared. There's a room for Leo. Everything he'll need." "Of course," Monet nodded, struggling to keep her voice even. "When—" "I'd like him to come home with me tomorrow," Grayson said. "If you think he's ready." Monet wanted to say no. She wanted to argue that Leo needed more time, that the transition should be gradual, that tearing him away from the only stable home he'd known would traumatize him all over again. But she looked at Grayson, at the hope and fear in his eyes, at the tentative bond he was building with the son he'd never known, and she couldn't bring herself to stand in the way. "I'll help him pack tonight," she said instead, "and I'll bring him here tomorrow." "Thank you," Grayson said. Then, after a moment's hesitation, "Would you be willing to—" to stay for a few days at my house to help Leo adjust. The request surprised her. You want me to stay? Leo trusts you, Grayson said simply. I don't want to make this any harder on him than it has to be. That night, as Monet he LP'd Leo pack his things, she tried to explain what was happening. Your daddy is going home tomorrow, she said gently, and he wants you to go with him. Leo looked up from folding his favorite t-shirt. What about you? I'll come too for a little while to help you get settled. And then, Monet swallowed the lump in her throat. And then you'll live with your daddy and I'll come visit often. I don't want to go, Leo said, his lower lip trembling. I want to stay here with you and Tasha. Monet pulled him into a hug. I know, sweetie, but your daddy loves you very much and he wants to take care of you. You're going to have a nice big room and a yard to play in. I don't care about that, Leo interrupted, tears spilling over. I want you. Monet held him as he cried, fighting back her own tears. I'll always be part of your life, Leo, always, no matter what. The next day, Monet and Leo arrived at the hospital with 2 suitcases and Blue the elephant. They found Grayson dressed in street clothes for the first time, expensive-looking jeans and a simple button-down shirt that still hung loose on his frame. Are you ready? He asked Leo with a gentle smile. Leo didn't answer, just held tighter to Monet's hand. The hospital exit was chaotic. Despite attempts at privacy, word had leaked about Grayson's discharge. Reporters crowded the entrance, cameras flashing. Security guards formed a barrier, leading them to a waiting black SUV with tinted windows. Leo, overwhelmed by the noise and commotion, buried his face against Monet's leg. It's okay, she soothed, lifting him into her arms. We're just going to get in the car with your daddy. Inside the vehicle, Grayson looked apologetic. I'm sorry about that. I tried to keep it quiet. It's not your fault, Monet said, still holding Leo, who refused to let go. Your news. The drive took them out of the city, through increasingly affluent neighborhoods, until they turned onto a private road lined with oak trees. At the end stood a sprawling modern house of glass and stone, surrounded by manicured gardens. Home sweet home, Grayson said with a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Leo peeked out the window, then looked back at Monet, uncertain. It's beautiful, she said encouragingly. Look at Al-El, that space to play. Inside, the house was just as impressive. Soaring ceilings, minimalist furnishings, artwork that probably cost more than Monet's entire apartment building. A staff of 3 greeted them, a housekeeper, a cook, and a personal nurse for Grayson. And this, Grayson said, leading them upstairs and down a hallway, is Leo's room. He opened a door to reveal a child's paradise. A big bed with a blue comforter, shelves filled with books and toys, a play area with a train set, even a small slide leading to a pit filled with colorful balls. What do you think, buddy? Grayson asked, kneeling to Leo's level. Do you like it? Leo looked around, clearly impressed despite himself. But then he turned back to Monet, clutching her hand. Where's your room? Grayson and Monet exchanged a glance. Ms. Campbell will be staying in the guest room down the hall, Grayson explained, for a little while, to help you get settled. And then she goes away? Leo asked, his voice small. No, not away, Monet said quickly. I'll still see you. I'll visit. You'll just live somewhere else, Grayson added, while you live here with me. Leo's face crumpled. I don't want to live with you. I want to go home with Mommy. He threw himself at Monet, wrapping his arms around her legs. Grayson's face fell, a flash of hurt quickly masked. Why don't we let Leo get settled, he said quietly to Monet. I'll show you to your room. The guest room was bigger than Monet's entire apartment, with its own bathroom and a view of the garden. But it felt cold, impersonal. Thank you, she said. It's lovely. I had my assistant stock the closet with some clothes, Grayson said. I hope they fit. If not, just let Maria know, and she can get you whatever you need. That's very thoughtful, Monet replied, surprised. Grayson shrugged D. It's the least I can do. He hesitated, then added, I know this is difficult, for all of us, but especially for Leo. And for you. Monet looked at him, really looked at him for perhaps the first time. Behind the wealth and the power, she saw a man struggling, with his recovery, with sudden fatherhood, with the weight of responsibilities he never asked for. "It's difficult for you too," she acknowledged. Something passed between them then, an understanding, a recognition of shared concern for the small boy down the hall. "I never expected," Grayson began, then stopped. "I always wanted children someday, but not like this. Not with a son who already has a mother in his heart." "I'm not trying to take your place," Monet said softly. "I know," Grayson replied. "That's what makes this so complicated." Dinner that night was awkward. Leo refused to eat unless Monet sat next to him. He ignored most of Grayson's attempts at conversation. When the cook brought out dessert, chocolate pudding, Monet noticed someone had done their homework. Leo's face lit up momentarily, only to fall again when he realized it wasn't quite the same as the pudding cups Monet bought. "It's different," he complained. "It's homemade," Grayson explained. "Try it. I bet it's even better." But Leo pushed it away, tears welling in his eyes. "Hey," Monet said gently. "Remember what we talked about? About trying new things?" "I want to go home," Leo whispered. Grayson's face tightened with hurt, but he managed a smile. "This is home now, Leo, for both of us. We're going to be okay." After dinner, it was time for Leo's bath and bedtime story. Monet started to lead him upstairs, but Grayson stopped them. Maybe I could read the story tonight," he suggested. Leo looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes, then at Monet. "That sounds nice," Monet encouraged. "I'll be right here if you need me." Reluctantly, Leo followed Grayson upstairs. Monet waited in the living room, listening to the faint sounds of bathwater running, voices, a few laughs. It was a good sign, she told herself, the beginning of a bond. But 20 minutes later, Grayson appeared at the top of the stairs. "Monet, he's asking for you, for the story." She found Leo in his new bed, Blue clutched tightly to his chest. "He doesn't know the elephant story," Leo complained. "Not the right way." "I'm sure your daddy has lots of stories to tell you," Monet said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Different ones." "I want your stories," Leo insisted. Monet glanced at Grayson, who stood in the doorway. "Why don't we both tell you a story tonight? I'll go first, then your daddy." It was a compromise that Leo accepted, if reluctantly. After he finally fell asleep, Monet and Grayson retreated downstairs. "Drink?" Grayson offered, heading for a bar cart in the corner of the living room. "No, thank you," Monet declined. "I should probably get some rest too." "Just one," Grayson pressed. "I think we both need it." Monet relented, accepting a glass of wine while Grayson poured himself something stronger. "He'll adjust," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "It just takes time." "Time," Grayson repeated, taking a long sip of his D-drink. "I've lost so much of it already." "You have plenty ahead of you," Monet assured him. "Leo's still young." Grayson studied her over the rim of his glass. "You really care about him?" "I love him," Monet corrected gently. "I've raised him for 2 years. He's as much mine as—" She stopped herself. "As much yours as mine," Grayson finished for her. "Maybe more." Monet didn't deny it. Couldn't deny it. "I'm sorry. That wasn't fair." "But it was honest," Grayson said. "And I appreciate honesty." He set down his glass. "I have a proposal for you." "A proposal?" "Stay," Grayson said simply. "Not just for a few days. Stay until Leo is comfortable with me, until he feels at home here." Monet blinked in surprise. "You want me to live here?" "In the guest house, if you'd prefer more privacy. It's fully furnished. Your sister could join you. I understand she's still in high school?" "Yes, but I need help, Monet," Grayson admitted, his voice raw with honesty. "I don't know how to be a father. I don't know what Leo needs, what he likes, what scares him. You do." He ran a hand through his hair. "And more importantly, Leo needs you. Taking you away from him now would be cruel." It was tempting, so tempting, to stay close to Leo, to ease the transition, to not have to say goodbye, but what about my job, my apartment? "Take a leave of absence. I'll compensate you, of course, more than fairly. As for your apartment, keep it if you want or don't. It's your choice." Monet stood, moving to the large window that overlooked the garden, now silvered with moonlight. "Why are you doing this? A week ago, you thought I might be some kind of con artist." Grayson joined her at the window, standing close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated. "A week ago, I was a man who woke up after 2 years to discover I had a son being raised by a stranger." He looked at her directly. "You're not a stranger anymore, and I've seen how Leo looks at you, how he trusts you." A pause. "How he loves you." Monet felt tears threatening. "And that doesn't bother you?" "Of course it bothers me," Grayson admitted with a rueful smile. "What fat her wouldn't be bothered that his son calls another person mommy?" He shook his head. "But I'm trying to do what's best for Leo, not what's best for my ego." In that moment, something shifted between them. A respect born of recognizing that despite their differences, of background, of wealth, of circumstance, they shared the most important thing: love for a little boy who needed them both. "Okay," Monet said finally. "I'll stay, for Leo." "For Leo?" Grayson agreed, though something in his eyes suggested there might be other reasons developing. They sealed the agreement with a handshake that lingered perhaps a second too long. That night, as Monet settled into the luxurious guest bed, she wondered what she had gotten herself into. This arrangement was supposed to be temporary, a transition to help Leo adjust to his new life with his father. So why did it feel like the beginning of something rather than the end? A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Leo standing there in his pajamas, blue dangling from one hand. "I had a bad dream," he whispered. "Can I sleep with you?" Without hesitation, Monet lifted him into her arms. "Of course, sweetie." As she tucked him in beside her, Leo asked the question that had clearly been troubling him. "Are you going to leave me?" "No," Monet promised, smoothing his hair. "I'm staying right here, for as long as you need me." "Forever?" Leo asked sleepily. Monet didn't answer. She couldn't promise forever. But as she watched Leo drift back to sleep, his small face peaceful in the moonlight streaming through the windows, she knew she would fight to be part of his life, no matter what. In another part of the house, Grayson Lawrence stood at his own bedroom window, staring out at the same moon. His recovery still had a long way to go. His business empire needed attention, and now he had a son who barely knew him, who called another woman mommy. But as he thought of Monet Campbell, her fierce protectiveness, her genuine love for Leo, her warm eyes that showed every emotion, he felt something unexpected stir within him, something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, under the same roof, 3 people who had been brought together by chance and circumstance slept, each dreaming of what family might mean. The guest house behind Grayson's mansion was bigger than any home Monet had ever lived in. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a spacious living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a small private garden. The kitchen gleamed with appliances she'd only seen in magazines. "This is ridiculous," Tasha declared, bouncing on the bed in the second bedroom. "We're living in a rich person's playhouse." "It's temporary," Monet reminded her sister, unpacking the few belongings they'd brought from their apartment. "Just until Leo adjusts." Tasha rolled her eyes. "Sure, temporary." It had been 3 days since Monet agreed to Grayson's proposal. 3 days of helping Leo settle into his new life, of showing Grayson the small details that made up his son's world, how Leo liked his sandwiches cut into triangles, not squares, how he needed his blue nightlight to sleep, how he'd talk endlessly about dinosaurs if you got him started. Grayson, to his credit, was trying. He took notes on his phone. He asked questions. He adjusted his schedule to be home for dinner every night, despite the mountain of work that had accumulated during his 2-year absence from his company. "You don't have to do everything at once," Monet told him one evening as they sat on the patio, watching Leo play with toy cars on the lawn. "Give yourself time to recover too." Grayson sighed, rubbing the back of his neck where tension always seemed to gather. "Time is exactly what I don't have. My board of directors is already questioning my fitness to return as CEO. My competitors have taken significant market share. And Leo, He looked at his son with a mixture of love and frustration. He still flinches when I try to hug him. He'll get there, Monet assured him. It's only been a few days. Grayson turned to her, his blue eyes intense. How did you do it? How did you get him to trust you? I didn't push, Monet said simply. I was just there, consistently, patiently. She smiled at the memory. And I told him stories, lots of stories. About the elephant, Grayson nodded. Blue, among others. Grayson watched his son a moment longer, then made a decision. Leo, he called, want to help me with something? Leo looked up cautiously. Hat. I need to build a fort in the living room for story time, but I need an expert fort builder. Know anyone who could help? Leo's eyes widened. I can build forts. Mommy and me build them with blankets and chairs. If the word mommy still stung, Grayson didn't show it. Perfect. You're hired. Let's go raid the linen closet. Monet watched them go, a warmth spreading through her chest. Maybe this could work after all. Later that night, after Leo was asleep, Monet found Grayson in his home office, surrounded by stacks of papers and multiple computer screens. Sorry to interrupt, she said from the doorway. I just wanted to say good night. Grayson looked up, fatigue evident in the lines around his eyes. Not interrupting. Come in. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. How's Leo? Out like a light, Monet smiled. That fort story session wore him out. That makes one of us, Grayson said, fully closing his laptop. I could use about 12 more hours in the day. You should rest, Monet advised. You're still recovering. So the doctors keep telling me. Grayson leaned back in his chair, studying her. You know, you're not what I expected. What did you expect? I'm not sure, he admitted. When I first woke up and heard some woman had been raising my son, I imagined, I don't know, someone calculating. Someone who saw Leo as a meal ticket. And now? Now I know better. His voice softened. Leo couldn't have asked for a better mother. The word hung in the air between them. Mother. Not guardian, not caretaker. Mother. Thank you, Monet said quietly. That means a lot. Grayson stood, moving around the desk to lean against it, closer to her. I've been thinking about the future, about how to make this work long-term. Long-term? Monet's heart skipped. Leo needs both of us, Grayson said. That's obvious. And while this current arrangement is fine for now, eventually, I'll have to go back to my life. Monet finished for him. My job, my apartment. Unless there's another option. Before he could elaborate, the doorbell rang. Unusual for so late in the evening. Grayson frowned. I'm not expecting anyone. They both went to the main entrance where Maria, the housekeeper, was speaking with a striking blonde woman in an expensive-looking dress. I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence, Maria said when she saw them. This lady insists on seeing you. The blonde woman pushed past Maria, her gaze landing first on Grayson, then moving dismissively over Monet. Grayson, darling, you're looking well for someone who was at death's door. Grayson's entire demeanor changed. His shoulders stiffened, his expression cooled. Kara, this is unexpected. Monet's breath caught. Kara, Leo's mother. Aren't you going to invite me in? Kara asked, already stepping into the foyer. It's been a long flight from Milan. Why are you here? Grayson's voice was controlled, but Monet could hear the tension underneath. Kara's perfect eyebrows rose. To see my son, of course. Isn't that why you've been having your lawyers track me down? To arrange a visit? After 2 years of silence, Grayson said flatly. After abandoning him at a hospital. Kara waved a manicure red hand dismissively. I made sure he was somewhere safe. I knew once you woke up, you'd take care of everything. You always do. Her gaze shifted to Monet. And who's this? The nanny? Before Grayson could answer, a small voice came from the top of the stairs. Mommy? Everyone looked up to see Leo standing there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching Blue. For a moment, Kara's face lit up, until she realized Leo was looking at Monet, not her. Leo, sweetie, Monet said, already moving toward the stairs. You should be in bed. I heard voices, Leo said, rubbing his eyes. Who's that lady? An uncomfortable silence fell over the foyer. Leo, Grayson said finally, his voice gentle but firm. This is Kara, your birth mother. Leo's eyes widened, darting between the adults. Then, without a word, he turned and ran back to his room. Well, Kara said after a moment, that was not the reunion I imagined. Monet was already halfway up the stairs. I'll check on him. No, Grayson stopped her with a hand on her arm. Let me. You. He looked at Kara with barely concealed anger. Deal with our unexpected guest. Left alone with Kara, Monet felt herself being assessed from head to toe. So you're the one, Kara said, her tone almost amused. The nurse who's been playing mommy to my son. I haven't been playing anything, Monet replied evenly. I've been raising Leo since you left him. And I'm sure Grayson has been very grateful. Kara's implication was clear. Monet refused to take the bait. Would you like some coffee? It seems you and Grayson have a lot to discuss. Kara followed her to the kitchen, her heels clicking on the marble floor. You know he's going to want me back in Leo's life. I'm his mother. That's between you and Grayson, Monet said, busying herself with the coffee maker. And Leo. Leo will adjust. Children are adaptable. And let's be honest. Kara gestured around the luxurious kitchen. This is his birthright. All of this. Grayson's world. My world. Leo doesn't care about any of this, Monet said, facing her directly. He cares about who reads him stories, who comforts him when he's scared, who knows that he hates the crusts on his bread and loves the swings at the park. Something flickered in Kara's perfect features, uncertain why perhaps, or a hint of shame quickly masked. I wasn't ready to be a mother. And now you are? Now I'm here, Kara said, as if that answered everything. Upstairs, Grayson found Leo hiding under his bed, a place he retreated to when upset. Hey, buddy, Grayson said, lying on the floor to peer under the bed frame. Mind if I join you? Leo shook his head, clutching Blue tighter. Tight squeeze for a grown-up, Grayson commented as he managed to wiggle partway under the bed. Good hiding spot. They lay there in silence for a moment. Is she really my first mommy? Leo asked finally, his voice small. Yes, Grayson answered honestly. She is. Why did she leave me? Grayson sighed. How to explain something he barely understood himself? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Big mistakes. They get scared or confused, and they do things they shouldn't. Like leaving your little boy? Leo's question was heartbreakingly direct. Yes, like that. Grayson reached out slowly, giving Leo time to pull away if he wanted. When he didn't, Grayson gently stroked his hair. But that doesn't mean they don't love you, and it doesn't mean they can't try to make things better. Is she going to take me away? Fear edged Leo's voice. No, Grayson said firmly. No one is taking you anywhere you don't want to go. You live here now, with me. He paused. And with Monet, for as long as she wants to stay. Leo seemed to consider this. Promise? I promise, Grayson said, with all the conviction he could muster. Now what do you say we get out from under this bed? My back is killing me. That earned him a small giggle. By the time they made it downstairs, Kara and Monet were sitting in tense silence at the kitchen island, coffee cups between them. Leo, Grayson said gently, would you like to say hello to Kara? Leo half hid behind Grayson's leg, peeking out cautiously. Hello, he whispered. Kara's confident facade cracked slightly. Hello, Leo. You've gotten so big. An awkward silence followed. It's late, Monet said, standing up. Leo should be in bed. School tomorrow. School? Kara looked surprised. Kindergarten, Grayson explained. He's doing very well. I see. Kara seemed at a loss, as if she'd expected a much younger child. Well, we can catch up tomorrow. I'll be staying at the peninsula. I'll have my assistant contact you, Grayson said, his tone making it clear the visit was over. After Kara left, the three of them stood in the foyer, an odd little family unit brought together by circumstance. "Am I still going to school tomorrow?" Leo asked, looking up at Grayson and Monet. "Of course," Monet assured him. "Nothing's changing, sweetie." But as she met Grayson's troubled gaze over Leo's head, they both knew that wasn't true. Everything had just changed. The next morning, Monet found Grayson in his office, already on the phone despite the early hour. He gestured for her to wait as he finished his call. "My lawyers," he explained after hanging up. "Kara is requesting formal visitation rights. Can she do that after abandoning him? Legally, she's still his mother." Grayson ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Monet had come to recognize as a sign of stress. "But given the circumstances, my lawyers think we can limit her access, supervised visits only, at least at first." "And what do you think is best for Leo?" Grayson looked at her, his expression softening. "I think what's best for Leo is stability. You, me, this home we're building for him." "But Kara is his biological mother," Monet said, voicing the fear that had kept her awake most of the night. "If she really wants to be part of his life—" "Then she'll have to prove herself," Grayson said firmly, "just like I'm trying to do." Before they could discuss it further, the sound of Tasha's voice came from the hallway. "I'm just saying it's weird living in rich people land," she was telling Leo as they appeared in the doorway. "Everything's so clean all the time." "That's because Maria cleans it," Leo informed her seriously. "She even folds the toilet paper into a triangle." Tasha spotted Monette and Grayson. "Oops, grown-up talk time. Come on, short stuff. Let's go find some breakfast." "Pancakes?" Leo asked hopefully. "If Cook's in a good mood," Tasha replied, leading him away. Grayson watched them go with a small smile. "Your sister's good with him. She pretends not to care, but she adores him," Monette agreed. "She reminds me of my sister," Grayson said. "Alexis, same attitude." "You have a sister?" Monette realized how little she actually knew about Grayson beyond what was reported in the news. "A sister, parents, cousins, a whole family you haven't met," Grayson confirmed. "They've been giving us space, but they're eager to meet Leo. And you." "Me?" Monet was surprised. "Why me?" "Because you're important to Leo," Grayson said simply. "Which makes you important to all of us." The sincerity in his voice made her cheeks warm. "When will they visit?" "That's partly what I wanted to discuss with Yu," Grayson said. "My mother is hosting a family gathering this weekend at her estate. She's invited all of us, you, Leo, even Tasha." "A family gathering," Monet repeated, suddenly nervous. "With the whole Lawrence clan." "Don't worry, they don't bite," Grayson assured her with a smile. "Much?" Monet tried to imagine it, herself and Tasha out of place among the wealthy and privileged. "I don't know, Grayson." "Please," he said, surprising her by taking her hand. "It would mean a lot to me, to have you there. Both for Leo and—" he hesitated. "For me." The warmth of his hand around hers sent a flutter through her chest that she tried to ignore. "Okay," she agreed, "but I have nothing to wear to a Lawrence family gathering." Grayson's smile widened. "I think we can solve that problem." Which was how, the next day, Monet found herself in an upscale boutique in Buckhead, a personal shopper pulling dresses for her to try, while Grayson waited patiently in a plush seating area. "This is ridiculous," Monet hissed as she stepped out of the dressing room, in a sleek blue dress that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I can't let you buy me clothes. Consider it a work expense," Grayson suggested, "since technically you're on my payroll now." "That makes it worse," Monet complained, though she couldn't help admiring how the dress fit her curves perfectly. "Like I'm the help you have to dress up to be presentable." Grayson stood, approaching her with a serious expression. "Is that what you think? That I'm embarrassed by you? Aren't you?" Monet challenged. "The pediatric nurse from the wrong side of town?" "No," Grayson said firmly. "I'm in awe of you, of your strength, your compassion, your ability to love a child who needed you without hesitation or condition." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, in a gesture so intimate it made her breath catch. "Any family would be lucky to have you at their table, including mine." Monet wasn't sure how to respond to the intensity in his eyes, the sincerity in his voice. The blue one then, she said finally. If you insist on this shopping spree. Grayson's smile returned. The blue matches your eyes. Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather. Sunshine, blue skies, a gentle breeze. The drive to the Lawrence family estate took them through rolling countryside north of Atlanta, past horse farms and gated mansions. Leo, excited by the prospect of meeting more family, chatted from the back seat, while Tasha pretended not to be impressed by Grayson's luxury SUV. Will there be other kids? Leo asked. A few cousins around your age, Grayson confirmed. And my mother, your grandmother, is very excited to meet you. What should I call her? Leo wondered. A good question, Monet thought. What would the Lawrence matriarch want to be called by the grandson she hadn't known existed until a few weeks ago? Why don't you ask her? Grayson suggested. She'll let you know what she prefers. The Lawrence estate made Grayson's home look modest by comparison. A long driveway lined with ancient oak trees led to a sprawling antebellum-style mansion, complete with white columns and sweeping verandas. Holy, Tasha began, then caught herself. Holy moly, this is like a museum. It's been in the family for generations, Grayson explained as they parked among a collection of equally expensive vehicles. My mother was born here. Monet smoothed her new blue dress, suddenly nervous. What was she doing here? Playing dress-up in a world that wasn't hers. As if sensing her anxiety, Grayson placed a reassuring hand on the small of her back as they approached the grand entrance. They're going to love you, he murmured. Just be yourself. The door opened before they could knock, revealing an elegant older woman with Grayson's blue eyes and silver-streaked blonde hair. There you are, she said, her gaze immediately fixing on Leo. And this must be my grandson. Leo, suddenly shy, pressed against Monet's side. Mother, Grayson said, stepping forward to kiss the woman's cheek. This is Leo, and this is Monet Campbell and her sister Tasha. Everyone, my mother, Eleanor Lawrence. Eleanor's assessing gaze moved from Leo to Monet, sharp and intelligent. At last we meet, the woe man who raised my grandson while my son slept. There was no hostility in her tone, just frank acknowledgement. Thank you for that. Please come in. Everyone's eager to meet you. The everyone turned out to be a sizable gathering. Grayson's father Richard, a distinguished man with a wheelchair and a booming laugh, his sister Alexis, sharp-witted and stylish, various aunts, uncles and cousins, all curious about the new additions to their family circle. To Monet's surprise, they were welcoming. Curious, certainly, and not without the occasional tone-deaf comment about her charitable work with Leo, but generally kind. Leo, after his initial shyness, was soon playing with cousins his age on the vast lawn behind the house. He's settling in well, Eleanor observed, joining Monet on the veranda where she'd stepped out for a moment of quiet. Children are resilient. Yes, they are, Monet agreed. And what about you, Miss Campbell? How are you settling into your new arrangement? The question held layers of meaning. It's an adjustment, Monet answered honestly. For all of us. Eleanor nodded, her gaze shrewd. My son thinks very highly of you. I haven't seen him look at anyone that way since before the accident. Monet felt her cheeks warm. We're focused on what's best for Leo. Of course, Eleanor said, a knowing smile playing at her lips. As it should be. She paused, then added, You should know that Cara Moore contacted me yesterday. Monet stiffened. She did? Seems she thinks I might be an ally in her quest to reconnect with her son, my grandson. Eleanor's expression hardened slightly. I told her that any woman who abandons a child doesn't simply get to waltz back into his life when it's convenient. Monet was surprised by the support. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Eleanor cautioned. Darcy Cara is determined, and she has her own family connections. She turned to face Monet directly, which is why I'm concerned about the precariousness of your position. My position? As Leo's, what, guardian? Nanny? Friend of the family? Eleanor raised an eyebrow. The law prefers clear definitions, Ms. Campbell, and in a custody dispute, which I fear may be brewing, ambiguity is dangerous. Before Monet could respond, Grayson appeared in the doorway. There you are. Father's asking for you, Mother. Something about the wine selection. Eleanor patted Monet's arm. Think about what I said, dear, for Leo's sake. As she walked away, Grayson moved to Monet's side. What was that about? Your mother was just offering advice. Sounds ominous, Grayson said with a smile. She means well, though, even when she meddles. Monet looked out over the lawn where Leo was now riding on his grandfather's W wheelchair, shrieking with delight. Your family has been very kind, more than I expected. What did you expect? Judgment? Rejection? Maybe, Monet admitted. I'm not exactly from your world, Grayson. He turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You're from Leo's world, that's all that matters to me. His gaze dropped to her lips, and for a breathless moment, Monet thought he might kiss her. Instead, a child's voice broke the spell. Daddy, Mommy, watch this. They both turned to see Leo attempting a cartwheel on the lawn, falling in a giggling heap instead. Great job, buddy, Grayson called, then glanced at Monet with a rueful smile. Daddy and Mommy, I'm getting used to the sound of that. Monet felt a pang in her chest, hope and fear tangled together. Grayson, I know, he said softly. It's complicated. Very complicated, she agreed, and getting more so by the day. The rest of the afternoon passed pleasantly, with a lavish lunch served on the veranda and more family stories than Monet could keep straight. By the time they headed home, Leo was fast asleep in the back seat, worn out from playing with his newfound cousins. Your family is nice, Tasha commented from the back, surprising them both. That Alexis is cool. She offered me an internship at her design firm next summer. Did she now? Grayson glanced at her in the rear view. W mirror. Alexis doesn't offer internships to just anyone. She must have seen something special in you. Tasha shrugged, but Monet could tell she was pleased. Whatever, I might do it, if college doesn't work out. College will work out, Monet assured her. We'll find a way. Actually, Grayson said, I was going to wait to mention this, but there's a trust set up for Tasha's education now, part of our agreement. Monet turned to him in shock. What? You never said anything about that. It was going to be a surprise, Grayson admitted. For both of you. I don't need your charity, Tasha began, but Grayson cut her off. It's not charity, it's gratitude. You and your sister have given Leo something priceless, a loving family when he had none. Consider it a thank you. Tasha fell silent, for once without a sarcastic comeback. That night, after Leo was asleep, Monet found Grayson in the garden, sitting alone by the illuminated pool. You should have told me about the trust, she said, sitting beside him. About paying for Tasha's college. Would you have accepted if I had? Grayson asked. Probably not, Monet admitted. Exactly, he smiled. Besides, it's not just for Tasha. There's one for you, too. Grayson, before you refuse, he interrupted, think about what it could mean. Freedom to choose, to go back to school if you want, to open your own practice someday, to never have to worry about how to make rent again. Monet shook her head. I can't accept that. Why not? Because... She struggled to articulate the discomfort she felt. Because it would make this, all of this, feel like a transaction. Like you're paying me to care for Leo, to be in his life. Grayson was quiet for a moment. That's not my intention. I know, Monet said softly, but it's how it feels. What if there was another way? Grayson asked, his voice taking on a new intensity. A different kind of arrangement? What do you mean? Grayson turned to face her fully, the pool lights casting a blue glow across his features. What my mother said today, about the precariousness of your position in Leo's life. She's right. If Kara pushes for custody or even significant visitation, the courts will look at our current setup and see, what? A temporary arrangement, a hired caregiver. Monet's heart sank. What are you saying? I'm saying there's a way to solidify your place in Leo's life, legally, permanently. Grayson took a deep breath. Marry me. Monet stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? Marry me, Grayson repeated. Become Leo's stepmother legally. No court would question your right to be in his life then. You want to get married? For Leo? Monet couldn't process what she was hearing. For Leo, Grayson confirmed. And for you. And... His voice softened. Maybe for me too. Grayson, that's crazy. We barely know each other. I know enough, he insisted. I know you're kind and brave and fiercely protective of those you love. I know Leo adores you. I know my family respects you. He reached for her hand. And I know that when I look at you, I see the possibility of something I never expected to find after waking up from that coma. A partner. A future. Monet's head was spinning. This is too fast. Too much. Think about it, Grayson urged. It makes sense, Monet. For all of us. We could be a real family. You, me, Leo, even Tasha. A family built on a legal arrangement. Monet pulled her hand away. That's not how families are made, Grayson. Then how would you define what we already have, he challenged. We're raising a child together, living under the same roof, learning to trust each other. His voice dropped lower. Feeling things for each other that go beyond gratitude or obligation. Monet couldn't deny the pull between them, the electricity she felt whenever he was near, the way her heart raced when he smiled at her. But was that enough? I need time, she said finally. This is a lot to consider. Grayson nodded, disappointment clear in his eyes, but respect too. Take all the time you need, the offer stands. As Monet walked back to the guest house, her mind in turmoil, she didn't notice the car parked just outside the property gates, didn't see the blonde woman watching the house through the darkness, her perfectly manicured nails tapping thoughtfully against the steering wheel. Cara Moore had not come back into their lives simply to reconnect with a son she'd abandoned. She had plans that would test the fragile bonds of the unconventional family forming within those walls, and she was just getting started. Morning sunlight streamed through the guest house windows as Monet prepared Leo's lunch for school. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich cut into dinosaur shapes with the special cutter he loved. Apple slices, string cheese, a small chocolate pudding cup as a treat. You're quiet today, Tasha observed, grabbing a piece of toast. Still thinking about Richie Rich's proposal? It had been 3 days since Grayson asked Monet to marry him. 3 days of avoiding being alone with him, of focusing on Leo, of trying to sort through the tangle of emotions in her heart. It's complicated, Monet said, closing the dinosaur lunchbox. Doesn't seem that complicated to me, Tasha shrugged. You like him, he likes you, Leo loves you both, and bonus, he's loaded. That's not what matters, Monet protested. No, but it doesn't hurt. Tasha grinned. Seriously, sis, I see how you look at him when you think no Oni's watching. Before Monet could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Atlanta Memorial Hospital. Hello, she answered. Monet, it's Nurse Jackson. Her former supervisor's voice was warm. How's that little boy of yours doing? Leo's great, Monet smiled, adjusting well to everything. Good, good. Listen, the reason I'm calling, we're in a bind here. 3 nurses out with that stomach bug that's going around. Any chance you could pick up a shift? I know you're on leave, but... I'd love to, Monet said quickly, perhaps too quickly. A day at the hospital sounded perfect, familiar, uncomplicated. When do you need me? Today? Noon to 8? I'll be there. After hanging up, Monet called Grayson to explain. He answered on the first ring. Everything okay? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Fine. The hospital's short-staffed. They asked if I could cover a shift today. And you said yes, it wasn't a question. I did. Is that a problem? No, of course not. A pause. You miss it, don't you? Your work. Monet hadn't realized until that moment how much she did miss it. The purpose, the routine, the feeling of being needed for her skills, not just her connection to Leo. Yes, she admitted. I do. You should go back if that's what you want, Grayson said. We can work out a schedule. Leo's in school most of the day anyway. His understanding touched her. Thank you. I'll pick Leo up from school before my shift. Maria can watch him until you get home. Actually, Grayson said, I was planning to leave work early today. Thought maybe we could talk. About the proposal, she knew. Grayson. No pressure, he assured her. Just talk. I miss that. Monet found herself smiling. Me too. Tonight, then. Leo was excited to hear Moni was going back to the hospital, not because she'd be away, but because he was proud of her being a nurse. "Do you help sick kids feel better?" he asked as she walked him to school. "I try," she said, "like you helped me." Leo squeezed her hand. "When I was sad about not having a mommy or daddy." Monet's heart melted. "You have a daddy now, a daddy who loves you very much." Leo nodded thoughtfully. "And I have you, forever, right?" The innocent question brought back all her uncertainty. "I'll always be in your life, Elle. Oh, no matter what, I promise." That seemed to satisfy him. Back at the guest house, Monet changed into her old scrubs, feeling a comfort in the familiar routine. As she gathered her things, her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. About Leo. About your arrangement with Grayson. Meet me at the Peninsula Hotel, 11 a.m. Cara Monet stared at the message, her stomach knotting. She should ignore it. Should go straight to the hospital. Should tell Grayson. But if Cara had something to say about Leo, didn't she need to hear it? Against her better judgment, Monet found herself walking into the elegant lobby of the Peninsula at 10:55 a.m. The concierge directed her to the hotel restaurant, where Cara sat at a corner table, immaculate in a designer dress, sipping champagne. "Miss Campbell," Cara greeted her with a cold smile. "Thank you for coming. Drink?" "No, thank you," Monet said, sliding into the seat across from her. "I have to work. What's this about?" "Direct. I like that." Cara set down her glass. "I'll be direct too. I know about Grayson's proposal." Monet tried not to show her surprise. "How?" "Atlanta is a small town in certain circles," Cara waved dismissively. "The point is, I think you should accept." That was the last thing Monet had expected to hear. "You... what?" "Marry him," Cara repeated. "Become Mrs. Grayson Lawrence, steam mother to my son." Monet's eyes narrowed. "Why would you encourage that?" "Because it's the cleanest solution for everyone." Cara reached into her designer handbag, pulling out an envelope which she slid across the table. "Once you're married, this comes into effect." Monet hesitantly opened the envelope to find a legal document, a relinquishment of parental rights. "You're giving up your rights to Leo?" Monet asked, stunned. "For the right price," Cara confirmed, her smile never reaching her eyes. $10 million to be exact, payable upon your marriage to Grayson and your legal adoption of Leo. The pieces fell into place. "You're blackmailing Grayson." Such an ugly word, Cara sighed. "I prefer to think of it as compensation for 9 months of pregnancy and the inconvenience of giving birth. Grayson can afford it. The man is worth billions. And if he doesn't pay?" "Then I press for full custody," Cara said simply. "I am Leo's biological mother, after all. The courts tend to favor that relationship, especially when the alternative is..." She looked Monet up and down. "A temporary caregiver, with no legal standing." "You don't even want Leo," Monet said, disgust rising in her throat. "You just want money." "Everyone wins," Cara shrugged. "Leo gets the mother he already loves. Grayson gets the son he never knew. He wanted. You get a billionaire husband and a ready-made family, and I get to return to my life significantly richer. Grayson will never agree to this. He already has." Cara smiled at Monet's shocked expression. "We met yesterday. The papers are drawn up. All that's missing is you saying yes to his proposal." She leaned forward. "So be smart, Monet. Marry the man. Adopt the boy. Everyone gets what they want." Monet stood, her legs unsteady. "Leo isn't a bargaining chip. He's a child. A child you abandoned. A child who's thrived without me," Cara countered. "Let's not pretend otherwise." Unable to listen to any more, Monet left, the legal document clutched in her hand. Outside, she gulped the fresh air, trying to clear her head. Grayson had agreed to pay Cara off. Had that been his plan all along? Was the proposal just a business arrangement to secure Leo? Not an expression of growing feelings, but a transaction. The betrayal stung, sharp and deep. Her shift at the hospital passed in a blur. She went through the motions, checking vitals, administering medications, comforting children, But her mind was elsewhere, replaying Kara's words, imagining the conversation between her and Grayson. By the time she arrived back at Grayson's house that evening, her confusion had hardened into determination. She found him in the living room reading a bedtime story to Leo. "And the brave little elephant finally found his way home," Grayson was saying, doing a surprisingly good job with the story Monet had invented. "The end. That's not how Mommy tells it," Leo complained, but he was smiling. "She does the elephant voice different." "Well, maybe Mommy can show me the right way tomorrow," Grayson suggested, spotting Monet in the doorway. "Look who's home." Leo jumped up. "Mommy, did you make sick kids better?" Monet forced a smile. "I tried, sweetie. Time for sleep now." "Daddy already did story time," Leo said, "but you can tuck me in." After kisses and hugs and one more trip to the bathroom, Leo was finally settled. Monet lingered in his doorway, watching him drift off to sleep, his face peaceful in the glow of his nightlight. How could she disrupt his life again? How could she not? Downstairs, Grayson waited with 2 glasses of wine. "How was your shift?" "Enlightening," Monet said, accepting a glass but not drinking. "I had an interesting meeting today, with Kara." Grayson's expression shifted. "Kara contacted you?" "She showed me the agreement," Monet said flatly. $10 million for her to disappear from Leo's life. "Contingent on our marriage and my adoption of Leo." Grayson set down his glass. "I can explain." "Please do," Monet said, pulling the document from her bag. "Explain why you didn't tell me about this. Explain how your proposal was just part of a business deal." "It wasn't like that," Grayson insisted. "Yes, Kara approached me with demands. Yes, I agreed to pay her, not because I think she deserves it, but because it's the simplest way to protect Leo from a drawn-out custody battle." "And the proposal? Was that just a convenient solution to a legal problem?" Grayson moved closer, his eyes intent on hers. "The proposal was real, is real. Kara's blackmail just accelerated my timeline." "How convenient," Monet said bitterly. "Listen to me," Grayson said, taking her hands despite her resistance. "I was going to tell you everything tonight, the whole messy situation, but I wanted you to know that my feelings for you have nothing to do with Kara's schemes." "How can I believe that now?" "Because it's the truth," Grayson said simply. "I'm falling in love with you, Monet, not because you're Leo's caregiver, not because of some legal arrangement, but because of who you are, kind, stubborn, fierce in protecting those you love." The sincerity in his voice made her waver. "Grayson, I know it's fast," he continued. "I know it seems crazy, but nothing about our situation is normal. We didn't meet at a coffee shop or a friend's dinner party. We met because you stepped up to love my son when no one else would." His voice broke slightly. "How could I not fall for the woman who did that?" Monet felt tears threatening. "I can't be part of some transaction, some exchange of money for a child. Then we'll tear up the agreement," Grayson said without hesitation. "We'll fight Kara in court if we have to, together." "And risk losing Leo?" Monet shook her head. "I couldn't bear that." "My lawyers are confident, and even if Kara gets some visitation rights, Leo will always come home to us." "Us," Monet repeated softly. "Yes, us," Grayson confirmed. "Whether you marry me tomorrow or 10 years from now or never, we're a family, Monet. You, me, Leo, even Tasha. That doesn't change." The certainty in his voice, the love in his eyes, it broke through her defenses. "I need to think," she said, stepping back. "This is all too much." Grayson nodded, respecting her space. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." Back in the Gusent house, Monet found Tasha watching TV, feet propped on the coffee table. "You look like hell," her sister observed, muting the show. "Thanks," Monet sank onto the couch beside her. "I feel like it." "Lovers quarrel?" "It's complicated." Tasha rolled her eyes. "You always say that. But sometimes, sis, it's really not." She turned to face Monet fully. "Do you love him?" The directness of the question caught Monet off guard. I don't know. Maybe. It's too soon." "Too soon?" Tasha laughed. "You've been raising his kid for 2 years. You live in his house. You're already playing house, might as well make it official. There's more to it than that, Monet sighed. Kara's involved now, demanding money. So, let the rich guy pay her off. It feels wrong, like buying Leo. Tasha considered this. Look at it this way. That woman already left Leo once. She'll do it again, money or no money. At least this way, she's out of the picture for good. There was a simple wisdom in Tasha's words that cut through Monet's confusion. When did you get so smart about relationships? I watch a lot of reality TV, Tasha grinned. Seriously though, Leo needs you. Grayson needs you. And I think you need them too. Later that night, unable to sleep, Monet found herself wandering into the main house. She checked on Leo, finding him sound asleep, blue clutched to his chest. The N, drawn by a light from downstairs, she discovered Grayson in his office, surrounded by papers. "Hey," he said, looking up with tired eyes. "Couldn't sleep either." "No." She gestured to the papers. "Working late?" "Trying to distract myself," he admitted. "Not very successfully." Monet took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about everything, about Kara's offer, about your proposal." Grayson set down his pen, giving her his full attention. And I think we should do it. Pay her off. Get her out of Leo's life, but..." She held up a hand as Grayson began to smile. "I'm not ready to get married." "Not yet." His smile faded. "I see. That doesn't mean never," Monet clarified. "It just means I need time. Real time. To know that what's between us is real, not just convenience or gratitude or shared love for Leo." "How much time?" Grayson asked. "A year," Monet decided. 1 year of dating, of getting to know each other properly, of building something real. And in the meantime, what about Leo's legal status? "Joint guardianship," Monet suggested. "Your lawyers can arrange it, right? Make me Leo's legal guardian alongside you. Not as your wife, but as his other parent." Grayson considered this. "It's possible, not as clean as adoption, but it would give you legal rights." He moved around the desk to stand before her. "And after a year..." "After a year," Monet said, allowing herself to step closer. "If what we're feeling is real, then yes. I'll marry you. Not for Kara's money, not even just for Leo, but for us." The hope that dawned in Grayson's eyes was answer enough. He reached for her, his touch gentle on her cheek. "I can wait," he said softly, "for as long as it takes." This time, when he leaned in, Monet didn't pull away. Their first kiss was sweet, tentative, full of promise. When the why finally broke apart, Grayson rested his forehead against hers. "I'll have my lawyers redraft the agreement with Kara. No marriage requirement, just the guardianship and eventual adoption if and when we decide." "She won't like that," Monet warned. "She'll take it," Grayson said confidently. "The money's too good to pass up." He was right. 2 days later, Kara signed the revised agreement in the offices of Grayson's lawyers. The contempt in her eyes when she looked at Monet was matched only by the indifference with which she signed away her rights to Leo. "He's better off with you anyway," she said as she tucked the check into her purse. "I was never cut out to be a mother." "No," Monet agreed quietly. "You weren't." As Kara walked out of their lives for good, Monet felt no triumph, only sadness for what Leo had lost, a biological mother capable of loving him as he deserved, but also relief, knowing that HE would never again face the threat of abandonment. Life settled into a new routine. Monet returned to work part-time at the hospital. Grayson adjusted his schedule to be home for Leo's school pickups on the days she worked. They had family dinners, movie nights, weekend outings. They dated, real dates with babysitters and nice restaurants, and conversations that had nothing to do with Leo or legal arrangements. And slowly, surely, what had begun as mutual respect and shared concern for a child blossomed into something deeper, something real. 6 months into their agreement, they moved Monet's things from the guest house into the main house. Leo was delighted to have his mommy under the same roof all the time. Tasha, entering her senior year of high school, opted to keep the guest house to herself. More privacy, she claimed, though she still showed up for family dinners most nights. 8 months in, Grayson's company launched a new technology that made headlines worldwide. The celebration party was held at their home, with Leo proudly telling anyone who would listen that his daddy was the smartest man in the world and his mommy was the best nurse ever. Watching them together, Eleanor Lawrence sidled up to Monet with a knowing smile. "You've created quite a family," she observed. "I wasn't sure at first, but now I see why my son fought so hard to keep you." "Oh, in Leo's life. In his life." "Thank you," Monet said sincerely. "That means a lot, coming from you." Eleanor patted her hand. "When he proposes again, and he will, I expect to help plan the wedding." Monet laughed. "We'll see." 1 year to the day after their agreement, Grayson took Monet to dinner at the restaurant in the Botanical Gardens. Leo was having a sleepover at his grandparents', supervised by Tasha, who had become surprisingly close to the Law-Entz family. "Happy anniversary," Grayson said, raising a glass of champagne. "1 year of our deal." "Our deal," Monet smiled. "Is that what we're calling it now?" "What would you call it?" "The best decision I ever made," she said honestly. "For Leo. For me." She reached across the table to take his hand. "For us." Grayson's eyes softened. "I have something for you." He reached into his pocket and Monet's heart skipped, but instead of a ring box, he let out a folded document. "What's this?" she asked, taking it. "Open it." The document was legal, formal. As she scanned it, understanding dawned. "This is Leo's formal adoption papers," Grayson confirmed. "Ready for your signature, if you're ready." Tears filled Monet's eyes. "You're sure?" "More sure than I've ever been about anything," Grayson said. "You've been Leo's mother in every way that matters. This just makes it official." Monet carefully refolded the papers. "Thank you. This means everything." "There's one more thing," Grayson said, now reaching for something else in his pocket. This time it was a small velvet box. "I know we said a year. It's been exactly that, and I've never been more certain of what I want." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring, elegant but not ostentatious, exactly Monet's taste. "I'm not asking because of our agreement," Grayson said, his voice low and intimate. "I'm not asking because of Leo, though he'll be thrilled. I'm asking because I love you, Monet Campbell, because this past year has shown me that what I feel for you is the most real thing in my life." Monet felt tears spill onto her cheeks. "Grayson, marry me," he said simply. "Not for any reason, except that we love each other." This time, there was no hesitation. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Later that night, back at home, their home, they lie tangled together in the quiet darkness of their bedroom. "I never expected any of this," Monet admitted, her head on Grayson's chest. "When I first took Leo in, I thought it was temporary, just until his father woke up. And then I did," Grayson murmured, stroking her hair, "and complicated everything. Or made everything clearer," she countered. "Showed me what I really wanted. A family, a home, love." "Speaking of family," Grayson said, "how do you feel about expanding ours someday? Giving Leo a brother or sister?" Monet propped herself up to look at him. "Really? You'd want that?" "With you, absolutely." His smile was tender. "But only if you do." "I do," she said softly. "Very much." The next morning, they told Leo the news over breakfast, both the adoption and the engagement. His reaction was everything they'd hoped for, pure joy, jumping up and down, hugging them both. "So you'll be my real mommy?" he asked Monet. "Forever and ever?" "I already am, sweetie," she assured him. "The papers just make it official." "And you'll both be my parents? Together?" "Together," Grayson confirmed, his arm around Monet's waist. "We'll be a family. The way we were always meant to be." Leo considered this, his face serious. "Can Blue come to the wedding?" They laughed, the simple question breaking the emotional moment. "Of course Blue can come," Monet assured him. "He's family too." 6 months later, On a perfect spring day, they gathered in the garden of the Lawrence family estate. Leo, handsome in a miniature tuxedo, proudly carried the rings, and Blue, who wore a special bow tie for the occasion. Tasha, stunning in her maid-of-honor dress, actually shed a tear as Monet and Grayson exchanged vows beneath an arbor of white flowers. "I never expected you," Grayson said, his voice carrying across the hushed gathering. "I went to sleep a stranger to you, and woke up to find you'd already captured my son's heart. It didn't take long for you to capture mine, too." "You came into my life through Leo," Monet responded, her own voice steady despite the emotion behind it. "But you claimed your own place in my heart, a place I never knew was waiting to be filled." As they were pronounced husband and wife, Leo couldn't contain his excitement any longer. He rushed forward, throwing his arms around both their legs. "We're a real family now," he announced to the laughing guests. Grayson lifted his son into his arms. "We always were, buddy. The papers just make it official." At the reception, as Monet danced with her new husband, she caught sight of Leo showing Blue to his cousins, his face animated and happy, secure, loved. "No regrets?" Grayson asked, following her gaze. "Not a single one," Monet assured him, leaning up for a kiss. "This is exactly where I'm meant to be." Later that evening, after the celebration had wound down and Leo was asleep in his grandparents' house, Grayson led Monet to a quiet spot on the veranda. "I have something for you," he said, placing a folder on the small table between them. "More legal papers," she teased. "Haven't we signed enough for one day?" "Not legal papers," Grayson said with a smile. "A different kind of document." Curious, Monet opened the folder to find a familiar form, the kind used at the hospital where she worked. "A grant proposal," she asked, scanning the first page. "For the Monet Lawrence Foundation for Child Advocacy," Grayson explained. "A non-profit dedicated to supporting children in the foster system, providing resources, training, advocacy." Monet looked up in shock. "You're starting a foundation? For me?" "For you to run," Grayson corrected. "If you want to, your expertise as a PE diatric nurse, combined with your experience as a foster parent, you could help so many children find what Leo found with you." Tears filled Monet's eyes for what felt like the 100th time that day. "This is incredible." "Like I said a year ago," Grayson reminded her, taking her hands. "You're more than just Leo's mother or my wife. You're a force of nature, Monet, and I want the world to benefit from that, not just our family." She kissed him, then pouring all her gratitude and love into the embrace. "Thank you," she whispered against his lips, "for seeing me, for loving me, for creating this life with me. Thank you," he countered, "for being there when I couldn't be, for loving my son when I didn't know he existed, for giving me a second chance at life." They stayed there, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the stars come out over the garden where they'd just united their lives officially. 2 years ago, Monet had been a pediatric nurse working night shifts, raising her teenage sister, making ends meet. 2 years
ago, Grayson had been unconscious, unaware that he had a son, his life on hold. 2 years ago, Leo had been a traumatized, silent child, abandoned and alone. Now, against all odds, they were a family, whole, complete, bound not by blood or obligation, but by the choices they'd made to care, to stay, to love. In the end, it wasn't about legal papers or biological connections or social expectations. It was about a little boy who needed a mother, a man who woke up to find his life transformed, and a woman brave enough to open her heart when it mattered most. While he was sleeping, she had become everything to his son. Now that he was awake, she had become everything to him too.